iPhone kind of as the demo. To start with, one of the things that everybody needs to do when they walk out of the house with their iPhone to take photographs is probably one of the important things is take one of the microcloths and clean your lenses off. Because when you stick them in your pocket over time, or you have them out, or you have them in the house, you'll get a little dust and stuff like that. So you do that. The other thing as you begin to use the iPhone, especially if you're out for any length of time, you need to probably have with you, let's see where, this is a remote battery. You charge it at home, and then you can plug your phone into it to keep your phone charged. And I can tell you, one time I was on about a 15-hour hike in Yosemite, and about half the way back, my phone went dead because I lost my battery. It was worn out. And had I had one of these things while I was piddling around, I could have kept the charge up. So if you can get these things at Best Buy or something. A lot of companies give them out. The other thing you should have with you all the time, these ear pods are, and we'll get to it shortly, is they have some value with the camera. So you need to do that. The other thing I bought at one time, haven't used it, is you can get a solar charger. If you're out at extensive time, you can plug your phone into this and let the sun charge you. The other thing that is good to have if you get involved is a tripod. And there's all kinds of different tripods, but they all have a unique head to them. If I can do it, you can see the head that holds the iPhone. Mm-hmm. So those are all little. And the other thing you'll get eventually is I bought recently a remote Bluetooth that you sync your camera, your phone to this little Bluetooth, and then you can trigger the camera shutter release away from the phone. So you set the phone up on a tripod. If you want a group picture like we got yesterday or Thursday, you could go around getting the picture and use the Bluetooth to hit the shutter. So those are all things that are nice to have. And if you're going to use your iPhone extensively, that's a good way to do it. Okay, now let me get back. I'm going to be using a 13 Pro. And I will tell you that as Apple improves these cameras and phones, the commands and the instructions and what it does changes. I had the 11 Pro, and it had some different features. So if you guys have an 11 Pro, which is a 3-lens camera, the 12 Pro, it's going to do things a little differently. But the first thing you need to do is go to settings, and then you get these settings, and then you scroll down, camera, go down to the camera, you click on that, and it's got different formats. And then we'll walk through these. The first one, record video, leave it at 1080 times 30 frames per second. Record slow-mo. If you do it, I don't do it, but leave that. Record stereo sound, turn that one on. Preserve settings. You'll go down there, and there's a macro control on the 13. It may not be on the 11 or 12, but I turned it on. And what that does is as you get close to take a picture, the macro control will kick on at the 1x lens. So put it on. The exposure adjustment, they recommended you turn it off. Night mode, which gives the camera more capability in low light, turn it on. And then portrait zoom and live photo. We'll get back to live photo, but for the time being, leave it off. Sometime you may want to turn it on. And if you turn it on, you just touch it and then turn it back off. So those are the camera mode Okay, let me go back.
Hey, Jim, question for you. That
Yeah.
live photo, if that's clicked on, does that mean that the default is always live photo?
Yes.
Okay, you just taught me something. My wife was taking
Leave it
pictures.
on.
Yeah.
Yeah. Talk about live photo further in the thing.
Okay.
And the other thing is you go down, you scan QR codes. I have it on, show to text. That's on. The grid line needs to be on. That's important. The guy I got all this information from says the mirror front camera, have it on. View outside the frame, he suggested leaving it off. Prioritize faster shooting. He said leave it off because that increases the grain of the picture you're taking. He had lens correction was fine. Oh, okay. Let's see if I've got anything else. What have I done? Okay. And so that takes care of all of that. So you need to go through that. And then we're back to the main thing. Now, looking at this, if you want to turn on the camera, there's 3 ways to turn the camera on. One is right here, and that is you click the camera button, and now I'm looking at, you can see what I'm looking at to take pictures, my messy table. The other 2 would require, when you first turn your camera on, so all of you turn your camera on, there's a little camera icon in the lower right-hand corner. If you click on that, hold it, the camera clicks on. The other way to activate the camera is when you first turn your camera on, you can swipe from the right side to the left side, and that will activate the camera. The advantage of those 2 is you can give your camera to somebody and not have to put your code in to get to this screen. Because if you get to this screen and you want to turn the camera, you have turned the phone on with your passcode. The other 2, the camera comes straight up without having to mess with the passcode.
Just let you know that works on the iPhone 8. I just tried it.
You did, yeah. You either what I normally do, like Thursday, I was over at Warren's. You know, your camera kind of goes to sleep, and the way you turn this on is you don't punch the button. You just kind of swipe it with your finger, and my little icon in the lower right-hand corner, and I just pushed it, and the camera came up. I didn't worry about the passcode. So let's see. Any questions there? Okay.
I'm a little lost on that, but but I'm listening.
Okay, but
I'm not seeing what you're talking about, and I've got the 13.
You're not seeing his screen share?
Well,
okay.
I mean, I've got my phone here. And
Margaret, turn your phone off and then turn it back on. Before you do anything else, do you see a little camera icon in the lower right hand?
Yeah,
yes, that's it.
I've never noticed that before.
Yeah.
Well, I wondered what that was all about. Yeah, one second.
Finger and your camera comes up.
Okay, so I just swipe up.
No,
Swipe right.
No, touch it. Just touch it.
Wait.
The other way to do it. The other way to do it is when you turn your camera on and the first screen comes up, swipe your finger right to left, and that should activate the camera screen.
Okay, well, when I hit the little icon down here in the corner, nothing happens. I just get the swipe up to open message.
Well, hold your finger on that camera icon for a second.
Okay.
Hold it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Margaret, what iPhone model do you have?
13 Pro.
Okay, well, it should work. It works for me.
Margaret,
Okay,
if you hold it for just like 2 seconds and then lift it off.
And
Okay, good. It's on. It's on. You got to be real specific with me. When you say touch it how?
You have to hold it
Yeah.
for like 2 seconds.
You
Yeah, and
press
it
it.
worked. Yay,
put-
it worked.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, now, the other thing you need to know is there's 5 ways to take a photo. One is down here, the white button, you take the photo. The other way to take the photo is with the setup you have on the side of my 13 Pro, the side of it, you have an up and down volume button. You
Yes.
feel that?
Mhm.
If you've got your camera up, press the up volume button and bingo, you've taken the picture. And I'll get
Ah.
back to why that's important in a little
wow.
bit. So those are 2 ways, because sometimes you're holding the phone with one hand, you've got to use your second hand to take the picture with the white button. But with your hand and your thumb on the volume up on the side, you just click it and boom, you take the picture. And
Wow.
again, when we get into burst mode, that's very important. The third way to do it is if you've got the ear pods plugged in that I showed you that come with the camera,
Mhm.
the up volume button on the cord is a shutter button when when your camera's on. So, and where that's interesting is if you're out doing street photography, you can disguise that you're taking pictures because you put the ear pods in your ear and you're walking around and you're holding the camera against your chest or something, and you can use the volume button on the cord to take pictures, and the people you're taking pictures of don't even know you're taking a picture. So that's the other way. The other way to do it, and we'll get to that, is you've got the time delay mechanism that the time on the 13 Pro, I'll go ahead and touch on that. Look up in the middle of the upper, there's a little up arrow. See that? Okay. Touch that up arrow and a whole new menu kicks on below the screen. And there's one there that's got the little phone system and it says timer off 3S, 10S. You can trigger a picture by punching the 3S and the 10S. The 3S is you punch it 3 seconds after you punch it, it will take the picture. 10S, punch that, 10 seconds later, it will take the picture. And that allows you, if you've got it on a tripod, you can punch the 10S, run around and get into the picture. And then it'll take the picture. So, and then you've got the timer off. And most of the time you want the timer off. But that is a way to take the picture. And then the last way of the 5 ways is with that Bluetooth thing I showed you. Look, if I can get it to work. See, and I haven't set my little Bluetooth. I got this little package of 2 Bluetooth triggers. It cost me about $8 on Amazon, and I just hadn't played with them. And that way, you can be standing in the picture. You can be someplace else with your camera on a tripod, and you can take a picture with that remote control. So those are the 5 ways you can trigger the picture. Now we're going to get into burst mode, and if you want to get away, with this little arrow up here, you point it down, you get a hidden menu, and we'll come back to that. And the up takes you back to your main menu, and let's just look at it. You've got time lapse. Well, let's go from the left. You've got Pano. We'll come back to Pano in a little bit. And then the next one you have is portrait. And that is for taking portraits. And what it does, it blurs out the background. And if you look just above that, it's got a little box that says natural light. Well, if you move this, you go to studio light, you go to contour light, You go to stage light and you see what happens. And those you all are a function of taking your portrait. And you can come all the way over here and you got mono light, and then you've got high key mono light. You just need to play with those. But those are ways to kind of play with your camera. But most of the time on a portrait, you'll take it with natural light. Then the next one over is you've got photo, and the photo just above that, my 13 Pro has 3 lenses. I have a 3X lens, I have a 1X lens, and I have a 0.5X lens. And you can just touch on those and you can see how your screen changes. 3X, 1X, 0.5X. The 0.5X and the 1X are wide angle lenses. And pretty much everything past about 4 feet are going to be in focus. The 3X.
I'm sorry,
is-
which ones are wide angle?
0.5 and 1X. And the reason that's important is when I'm in 1X and I say, you know what, it's kind of showing that, but I want to make sure that, let me move this thing, this little napkin holder, if you touch the screen, a little yellow box will come up, and that is what the camera will focus on. If you don't have that screen, let me turn it off. Well, if you turn it off, if that screen, the camera will decide what it'll be on autofocus. So, especially with the 3X, you want to be able to punch where that, and that will be what, and if you take and you hold that, your finger on that, see up top, AF lock, auto exposure, autofocus lock, and it'll stay locked until you take it off. And to turn off the focus, hold on. Usually you just, let's go back. Okay, it'll go off automatically, or you just touch outside the yellow box and it'll go off. So those are all kind of interesting features. And you can see the 0.5 lens, those of you that have 3 lenses. And let me tell you, the 11 Pro lens either had a 2X or 2.5X. The 13 Pro went to 3X. Those are all telephoto lenses, and you want to use your manual focus as much as you can. One other thing about the manual focus, notice the little star, the sun on the side of it. This thing, that's that little sun, you can slide it up and down with your finger, and it will change the exposure. It'll make it brighter. This is, my finger's not going up as fast. Or as you go down, you can see it gets darker. So there are times when you got backlit, a picture that is backlit, and you want to tone down that back sun, you can do on the focus and then move the little sun up and down to get what you want, and then take the picture. Okay. Now, back to photo, and I'm going to get back to one. If you're taking pictures of motion, kids moving and stuff like that, what you want to be able to do is you want to use burst mode. In burst mode, the one way to do it, the older phones, burst mode was hold your finger down on the white button and it'll start taking rapid pictures. With the 11 Pro and the 13 Pro, you hold the white button and slide it to the left, and you'll hear it tick, 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 tick. It's taking a bunch of pictures. And what I did here, I just took 7 photos. Look up here on the upper screen. I took 7 photos with that burst mode.
Mhm.
And then
And
when you
that's
hit-
in video?
you can, what?
Is
No,
that
it's
in
on-
video
No, portrait.
and portrait?
Yeah. Now, one of the things I found out is the, let me get back to
No,
photo.
that wasn't video. That was just still picture.
It's
all he
just,
did.
it's a burst. It takes 7 photos in about 2 seconds or less. Now, when we get to editing, you can go down and pick which one of those 7 photos you want, and you can delete the rest of them. And let me give you, for instance, I was at well, no, I'll cover that later. When I got this phone, and I would go skiing, and these guys, I said, guys, I'm going to go down. I want you to ski by me, and I'm going to take a burst. Well, even when I took my glove off, because it's colder than the dickens up there, half the time I moved that thing to the left, the video came on. Well, guess what I found? I found out the other way to take burst mode is with your volume up button. So where I am now, I've got my thumb on the volume up button on the side of the camera, and I just hold it, and I just took 17 pictures. And if you go right down to the lower left hand, there's my burst picture that has 18 photos. And when you go, and then to get to those, you hit select at the bottom, and you see at the very bottom, those are all the photos you took. And the one that is the original has the little arrows to it. And you can change, you can see all the ones that I took, and you can change the ones you want to look at. And we'll get to how you edit them out later. But
Jim, just for interest's sake, it works on the iPhone 8 too. So if you're dealing with an old phone, still works there.
yeah, well, the big thing about the older phone, Chuck, is your burst mode, you just hold the trigger, the white button down.
Right. Yeah, and the volume up button works too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I would tell you from my experience that the best way to take burst is with a up button. It takes 2 hands to do to slide that. And again, hold on, let me see if I can do it. No,
Yeah.
yeah. But yeah, if you go to the right, you turn on the video, and I'm recording video now. And then when you turn the video off, you can see the thing moving across down at the bottom.
Yeah.
That's the video I took. I don't do video, so I'm woefully ignorant about video. But you can slide that where you slide left for burst, you slide right for video, and you activate the video. Yeah.
Excuse me, this is Angie Shepherd.
Yeah.
So I have an 11. I don't know that it's an 11 Pro, but it's an 11. And when I hit my, because Chuck, you were saying that even your 8, it allowed you the bursts.
Yeah.
I'm not getting that. Mine automatically goes to video.
Yeah. That's the problem I had with my old 11 Pro.
Okay.
Hold your camera up and use the volume up button and hold it down and see if you get a burst.
It still takes me to video.
It
Really?
does?
Yeah, mine goes to video also.
Yeah.
Are you on photo? Are you highlighting photo?
Yes,
Yes.
but
Yellow?
mine
Yes.
is not a Pro. I have a 13, but it's not a Pro. And I wonder if it only does it on the Pro.
I don't think so. I've got an 8,
Oh.
and mine works like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you slide the button to the left, Angie?
What
Yes.
button?
Because when you slide it to the left, now sometimes you slide it to the left, the red button comes on, and which aggravated the dickens out of me. But
It still goes to video. I'm not sure.
Well,
Okay.
see, because with my 11 Pro, I finally figured out how to slide it to the left and get it burst.
Right.
So, but early on, a lot of times what I did with my 11 Pro is I got what you got. I got the dadgum video and I didn't want it.
Mhm.
And I never used the side volume up button on my 11 because I didn't know that was a feature. I learned that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hey, Jim, this is John. Maybe
Yeah.
in their settings, they don't have burst with volume up turned on.
That's what I'm looking. I'm looking through my settings here too, see if I have an option.
Yeah,
It's got to be
I think
something.
that was one of the setting options. I said, turn on, make it green. Angie, go to settings. Go back to your main screen, go to settings, slide down to camera, click on that and slide down to see if you see burst mode, or I think what it said was volume up burst.
It says
And make sure
use
that
volume
is
up
on.
for burst.
What?
Use volume up for burst.
Yeah.
Yeah. volume
that's
up
right.
Burst.
That's
Make
right.
sure that's on.
Oh, okay. That's it.
Yeah.
Yes, I did not have that.
Me-
Uh,
Same with me, Angie.
Okay.
Excellent. Okay.
Same with
okay.
me.
Leave
Okay.
it on.
Learning so much.
Yes,
And-
exactly. Thank you so much.
So we covered that. Now, on the 13 Pro, to get to the hidden menu, there's a little arrow at the top. You hit on that and it turns yellow and it points down. And if you go down under your camera, you see a bunch of icons that are different in pano, photo, video, and that sort of thing. The one on the left is flash. And if you hit that, you can see that you've got three choices: auto, on, and off. If you do auto, the little flash icon, the slash line ends or disappears, and you now have flash on auto. What the instruction thing that I had was, they said most of the time this flash is so weak, you're better off just leaving it off. So you turn it off and it goes. Now, if you turn the flash on, you'll notice the little lightning bolt turns yellow. That means every time you take a picture, it's going to take a flash, and that's going to eat your battery up. So you're better off. I leave it off. Now, the other way you can turn it on is if you look up at the top left, you've got the little icon with the deal. If you touch that, it makes the flash go to automatic. And so those are the two modes. If you want it to flash all the time, it's either going to be auto or off up there. Now, the next one, the little icon down there, is live photo. You turn that on, and you also have it up at the upper right hand. And I can't get rid of Chuck's. There we go. You see it up the right hand. If you touch it up here, it's either off or on. You get down here, you've got live auto, on or off. If you do live auto, generally it stays on without the slash. What live auto is, it takes about a 2-second video when you take a picture. So the first thing you do, if you have your live on, you want to hold the camera steady. Let me turn it on. Let's go up here. Okay, I've got live on. And when I take a picture, you want to hold it. It takes about 2 seconds. And so let me tell you where that comes in. One time I was out at a dinner with a congressman. He was speaking to us. Afterward, everybody wanted to get their picture made with him. And I had inadvertently left live on because I normally keep it off because it drains your battery a little bit. But when took a picture of me and Kevin Brady, and who's our congressman, and I got home, my eyes were closed and I was in the middle of saying something. So I had this goofy expression on my face. And then I started playing around and I moved 2 or 3 images in that 2-second video. And I had my eyes open and I was sitting there smiling with Kevin Brady. So I got a good picture of it. And so with live on, if you're taking picture of people, group pictures or whatever, leave it on and then you can go back and look and pick a different one that will suit you better. We'll get to the edit mode.
Hey, Jim, I was going to say something interesting. You know, the live auto actually takes several pictures before you push the button and after you push the button. You don't even, I mean, it's actually taking pictures all the time, that camera, already. So when you do a live auto,
it's about a 2 or 3 second video where it takes those. And if you have live auto on, the thing to remember is hold the camera steady before you punch the shutter release button and after you punch the shutter release button, because it's still taking some pictures.
Yeah.
But it's a handy feature to have. I typically, if I'm doing landscape, I'll have it off because you don't need it. But with people in the picture, it might not be a bad idea to turn it on.
That's great. It's great with grandkids too.
Yeah.
You don't have to go to the burst mode.
The live photo and burst kind of do the same thing, except with the live on, you'll get that little 2 second. The burst mode, you can take 10 seconds of burst and you'll get, especially if they're running in something. The third little hidden menu item at the bottom that looks like stacked slides is filters that you can use before you take the picture. Now, when you go to edit mode, you've got the ability to do this same thing in edit mode. And for that reason, I just leave that off. I've never used it. I don't want to use it. I'd rather make those corrections in edit mode. Yes,
Jim, I'm sorry to interrupt. I got lost. I was on the button on the top right for the live on. Where else is that besides the top right?
It's down under. Do you have the arrow in the middle pointed down in yellow? See above the picture, you have a little arrow turned up.
No, it's pointed up.
Hit it, point down. Just touch it.
Got it.
Now, you look down there, you see live photo. It's the second from the left icon. It's just like
I got it now.
Okay.
Thank you. I'm sorry.
Okay. So this one, let's see. Yeah, this one says standard. And it's got, there's warm, cool, and it's got different things. And you can see me moving it. It's got a scale that moves it. I would not use that. You can do it in you can play with it, but it's easier to do it in edit mode because you got the same feature in the built-in edit on the camera. The third thing is the amount of area that your phone is going to take, and it's got 3 different things. The standard is 4:3, but if you want the square mode, it will change. That's 1:1, vertical to horizontal. In the 4:3 is 4 vertical, 3 horizontal, or vice versa. And then the other one is kind of a wide angle, kind of a semi pano that will allow, gives you a more elongated picture. And it'll fill that, it'll use what you take, but it will put it in that format. I don't use typically, but it certainly, well, what I just stay with the standard 4:3, but it's a feature that you can use. The next of the hidden menu items is that little plus or minus, and that gives you an over and under exposure. You can move that from minus. You can see how when you go to minus 1.7, it darkens it. And then when you move it up to 1.7, it lightens it up. So that's probably a reasonable feature, that you just hit that arrow down. And then when you're looking at a landscape or something, or want to take a portrait of somebody, you can click on that and you can adjust the exposure before you take the picture.
Hey, Jim, just a
Yeah.
comment. Isn't that the same as that little yellow box sort of that you were doing before with the sun on
Yeah.
it?
Yeah, the yellow box essentially tells you, well, it's not the yellow box, Chuck, it's the sun.
Oh, the sun.
That's on that little vertical line beside it.
Yeah.
And with that, you can move it up and down, and it changes where you have it focused. This kind of does the overall picture.
Okay.
Gives you a little bit.
But it's a little something.
Yeah, but what I, with that one, with that feature, I would, that's something you can play with. All of these things are fun to play with. Get out, and you can take a flower that's out in your flower bed, and you can go to that little plus or minus, and you can change the exposure on that flower. And then you can also take the flower and then go to edit mode and do it. So there's different things there. And then the last of the menu items down here is the timer off, the time delay. Now the 11 Pro doesn't have that. There's a different way to get to the time delay. It may be automatically at the upper part of the camera. I don't know. I do remember it's different. But this makes it, this is the 13 Pro. What the 14 Pro has, I have no clue. But I typically, your default mode is timer off. Because otherwise you're going to take a picture and then it's going to start sitting there, it won't take the picture, and then you move the camera and it takes the picture. So,
our microphone is on mute.
but generally you want, unless you want to go to those sub menu items, you want to have the arrow in the up position. Okay, I talked about setting the focus and adjusting the light with the yellow box you can see on the camera, and then moving the little sun up and down that line to kind of improve the exposure that you're looking at. So those are things to, okay, let's see. All right, let's get down to one of the items that was on this tutorial that I took was 5 most common iPhone mistakes. One is when you're, and I've done this, you're on photo mode, you got 1x. And I say, well, I want to get better. I'm going to go to 3. Well, sometimes we don't do that. Sometimes what we'll do is we'll take our fingers and we'll expand. I'm pinching my fingers together as I do this. And what good old Emil, who's the instructor I took, he said, you can, but you create a noisier picture. There'll be more grain in it. You're better off going to 3x and then moving back or moving forward and take it, and you'll get the sharpest picture. But I'll be honest with you, it's awfully like what I just did, I'm at 0.5x. You can see down at the bottom is I pinch my fingers. Now I'm at 1.1x. So there's an infinite variety. I pinch it together. I'm at 0.7x. I go up, I'm at 1.8x. So it's a moving scale when you use your finger to zoom in and out. Oh, and it works fine. He says that the ultimate picture is going to be a little more grainy. Okay. The other mistake people make is slanted horizons. Like that. Well, you can watch that, but if you does everybody have their grid lines in their on the screen? One of the features of those grid lines is to keep the horizontal, keep it level. But let me do this. Let me get back here. Okay. I'm going to turn it this way. I'm going to take a photo. Then here's my photo. And you go to edit mode. And those, when you hit the crop button down here at the bottom, you can straighten your photo out by sliding up and down this scale. And we'll come back to all the edit modes. But I don't worry much about the horizontal. The grid line helps it, but the grid line helps it. And you'll more often than not need to do anything. But if you end up with a slanted horizon, you can correct it in edit mode. Incorrect focus is one that's common, especially with the 3x and the portrait mode, because if you, let me go back. Okay. Now, I'm looking at, I've got portrait mode in, and you can see that little pair is out of focus. And I do that, hold on, it won't, but if I do that, it's not focusing. Oh, move further away. That's one of the things that it'll tell you is you're too close for portrait. And
Where to
there, now I'm far enough away that the little square turns from white to yellow. And as I move, so if you want to take something close, move back to that mode, and then you can move yourself in. Now I want to show you guys something that I discovered with the 13 Pro. Is you put it on 1x and you move in real close, and all of a sudden a little tulip in yellow pops up, and that's macro mode. And it comes on as you get close enough, it comes on automatically. And if you're taking a flower, it pops into focus. You move it out, it goes away. So I don't know if the 11 Pro does that or not, or the 12, but it certainly works on the 13. So, and you end up with much better macro. We had the macro shoot Thursday. I used for close-ups of the cacti and stuff like that. I use that, and it does that. Camera shake and blur. The guy that I took that I subscribed to do the modules, he has a very specific way to hold the camera. I don't like the way he does it, and it's very uncomfortable for me. And he, I think he holds it with his right hand. Well, I'm left-handed, so I'm going to use my left hand. And so the main thing is, I don't know if I can see this, is I grip it kind of like that, where I have my fingers around it, and then I've got my thumb. And what it allows me to do is with one hand, I can be holding it and use the volume up button to take the picture. Otherwise, I've got to use two hands. So that's a good feature. The other thing is, as you take a picture, especially a low light picture, you want to be, so many of us will hold our camera way out. And if I can't there. You need to be closer in, and your elbows need to be kind of into your body to create a more stable. The other thing you can do is lean up against the wall, put your elbows on a chair, something like that, to avoid the natural vibration we all certainly my age, have holding something. So the other thing people do, and we talked about the filters, is they use filters by accident. And I've never done that because I've never used that sub setting. And even if you do, you can correct it in edit mode. So any questions so far? This is all specific to the iPhone.
Yeah, Jim, the
Yeah.
question here on there's a couple of questions on the chat here. It says, Jim, who do you take the course from? You mentioned that.
Oh, there's a guy named Emo Patarklis, and he's from Riga, Latvia. His website is iPhone Photography Academy. And I signed up for his when I first got my 11 Pro, and I think it was $99 for a whole series of modules. And he demonstrates all this stuff. And then you're a permanent member. And then you go through like 10 module lessons. And then he came out this year, I think, with a second set of modules. And I went ahead and signed up about $90 for those. And I found them very good.
Yeah. One other question here was the iPhone X. Somebody mentioned here. He says you hold down the 1X and you get a little dial that goes from 26 millimeters up to 10X. And I know the 26 millimeters is the standard lens on an iPhone.
Right. Yeah. If it goes up to text 12X, it's a digital zoom, not an optical zoom.
Yeah.
And it can get awfully grainy.
That's what I mentioned, the thing, zoom, pinching with your fingers, that kind of thing, or using that dial is the same as cropping your picture.
More or less.
Which loses detail. If you really want to do that, take a normal picture and crop it afterwards.
Absolutely. That's what Emo said is do your cropping in the edit mode, not while you're taking the picture.
Yeah.
So so anyway, that kind of tells you all the little features on the iPhone. And a lot of those, when I started this second round of modules with Emo, I didn't know some of this stuff. Yeah. And the volume up on the side of the camera for burst mode sure would have made my life easy on the last ski trip, and it's going to make my life easy on the next one. Yeah. Because I'm going to actually get some pictures, the guy skiing behind me or by me. Okay, let's change to some more generic stuff, and then we'll try to get in a little bit to edit mode. Composition guidelines. Emo had seven guidelines that he suggested. One is simplicity, and there's a picture I took. On my screen it is sharp focus, but
it's not bad. It looks good.
Yeah, but simplicity, that's a pretty simple photograph. Let me find another one. There's one that I took at now. This photograph is not a simplicity photograph. That I got with that. Had I had a camera with a macro lens, I probably could have. Now I can crop that down to I think to something like that. That's a much simpler photo. So focus on, sometimes we want to take too much and instead of just one little one. Let me see. I think I've got another one. First one I took, it's got the frog and then it's got the koi pond and all that stuff. That's a pretty busy photo. I came back and took that. And that's a much simpler picture. And then you worry about the koi pond with another there. Now, if you'll see this, I'm gonna slide. You see the fish move for a second because I have live photo on, and we'll come back to that. Let me do. Well, I'll come back to that. Use negative space, and when you take a picture, let me go back to Chuck's because I think I can find it. This one has a couple of things that Chuck took. The foreground on landscapes, my experience has been the foreground makes or breaks the picture. Always, always, always look at the foreground to create depth in your picture. In this picture Chuck took, the foreground is the water, the little pond in front of the Capitol. There's a picture I took in Colorado Springs at Garden of the Gods, and the foreground is the rock structure, and Pikes Peak is in the background. Well, the foreground did two things. It focused my eye onto Pikes Peak, but it also framed the picture very well. And of course, you can see I could do that to it. And that was now let me go back and find another one. This is one of my favorite pictures from the Oregon coast. To me, what makes that picture is that rock in the foreground. Because it leads my eye, it creates depth, and it leads my eye out to the dawn low tide and those sea stacks or rocks out in the ocean. Let me see if I have another one. There's one that I took at Big Sky. Again, the foreground kind of throws me to look at Lone Mountain in the background. Let's see if I have any others. Okay, that'll be enough of that. But the negative space, a lot of times, if you're taking a picture of something moving, you want it moving to the empty space, which gives it the illusion of which direction it's going, and it enhances. You don't put the person walking in the middle of the picture. If they're walking to the right, you put them on the left vertical grid line, and you leave that other part open. The diagonal principle, and I haven't used this much, is if you've got two items that you want to show, instead of having them parallel to each other, you make them diagonal to each other. You put one in the upper left, the other one in the lower right, or vice versa. Something to play with. Symmetry, to me, is very important. There's a picture of a courthouse I took that's got two features. One, the steps and the handrails give you leading lines, but the courthouse is I took it as a symmetrical photo. You don't have to do that, but that's oftentimes, and the symmetry, the grid lines help with that. Leading lines. Chuck sent me a great one. Look at the leading lines in this photo Chuck sent me. The discoloration or the lines in the rock itself just leads you up to the lighthouse up there. This is one of my favorite photos. This is from Oregon, but to me, what catches my eye on this is that river down there that just kind of draws you to those rocks off in the distance. And so leading lines are every chance you get. My opinion is you try to use a leading line to enhance the photograph. The other one they do is use repetition. I took this a couple of weeks ago at a restaurant in down in Uptown in Houston, and what struck me was the repetition of all the stack and the they have each compartment. So there were 4 compartments holding firewood and that they use. And just personally, I kind of like that photograph for the repetition. The last thing they recommend is filling the frame. And that photo fills the frame. Macro photos fill the frame. There's a picture of an old church in Mississippi. I didn't fill the frame in that because I wanted the trees to frame the photograph. There's another one. I didn't fill the frame with that, but I used the walkway as a leading line. Plus, I framed that church with the vegetation, the trees, and the flower bed. A live view photo, and the 11 Pro is a little different, but that wasn't the picture I took. You see up here, it says long exposure, and I click on that, and it gives me 4 different edit modes. And with live, I punch on it, and that was the picture I took. And you can see that it's the water's not ribbon smooth the way I wanted it. So I took a long exposure and then it strung it out. And I've got a better picture than that.
Hey, Jim, this is John.
Yeah, John.
I think it'd help people if you tell them how in their library they get to that place so they can understand it.
Yeah. Well, what you do when you do a live mode photograph, hold on, let me find the one I'm looking for. Thought I had one. Yeah, here it is. Okay, here it is. Now, when you take a picture, a live picture, it'll come out looking like that. You can see it stops the motion of the water. But if you look up in the upper left hand, just under the arrow, it says live, and it's got a little arrow pointing down. And when I hit that, the drop-down menu gives you the edit options. So in the camera, what I wanted to do is I just hit long exposure, and that's what came out.
Yeah. Hey, Jim, just a sort of suggestion too. If you wonder if you have any live photos on your iPhone, if you go to your gallery and then hit albums and then scroll down, there'll be a list of the media types. And for example, one of the media types is live photos. You click on that, and if you have any live photos, they'll all be in there. And you can do some of this.
Yeah. Now, John, the 11 Pro doesn't have the edit mode up in the upper left-hand corner, but I've forgotten where it is on the 11 Pro. You may have to go down to that sub menu and then use the edit somewhere down in there. But in every one, it will give you the same drop-down menu: loop, bounce, and long exposure. And to me, the most common use for this in what I've experienced is creating this ribbon effect, which with a regular camera, you got to have it on a tripod and take a long exposure, several seconds to create that. Here, boom, you just hit it and it's done, which is really a neat feature. I don't think the old 8s, Chuck, does yours have the long?
It does. It does, and it works exactly the same. It's the top left.
Okay. Now, John, does that answer your question?
Yeah, I just think that people may have a problem trying to find it in their menu if they don't know to go to albums and then pull up the live part out of the albums.
Well, yeah, first of all, if you're thinking about uh, uh, editing a live photo or creating this ribbon effect, you got to have live photo on. And once it's on, it opens up other possibilities. It also allows you to, let's see, let me get down.
So you're saying when you take the photos, you need to have it set on live,
Yes,
and then when you go back in to edit, you can choose one of those.
yes.
Yeah, and I'm
Okay.
trying to get.
And if you need to find your live photos, go into albums.
Okay.
And then scroll down, you'll see there's a folder with all the live photos.
Yeah. Yeah. And let me get to let me get back here. Okay, let me get to okay. This long exposure, I'm gonna eliminate that and go to live. And that's what it looks like live. And then I'm going to go up to edit mode. And down at the bottom, you'll see next to cancel, there's live photo. And you click on that. And here are all the images that your camera took. The one that you're looking at is the one that has the white dot on top. And all you got to do is move it. And it says make key photo. And you touch that. And the white dot moves down. And that's now the key photo. But the other thing you can do is you can slide this scale and narrow the number of photos that you're dealing with. And then when you're done, you click on it, and then you can go back up if you want to. Well, where to go?
Well,
You can go back up and do your long exposure.
that key photo is important because that's how you picked your picture with the senator, right?
That's correct. That's the picture that is the still picture that will be edited for this. So
Yeah.
I actually moved that. The pictures in a landscape will all look the same.
Mhm.
It's when you're taking pictures of somebody moving, and one picture they'll be dragging a foot, but a couple of a tenth of a half a second later, their legs are in a much better position for a photo, and you select that as your key photo. And then there's one thing in here that'll say, well, in the burst mode, you'll select the one you want, and then it'll come up saying, do you want to delete the other photos? Or you can select several in burst mode that you want to keep and delete the rest.
Yeah.
So you can designate those. So those are things that you can do. I think I've covered everything that I wanted to cover. And I hope you've gained a lot of knowledge, because taking this module course, I learned things that I didn't know about the phone. And the Apple gets better and better and better about incorporating. Well, I give you one. The 11 Pro, I think you have to turn HDI on.
Yes, DR. Yeah.
HDR,
Yeah.
high dynamic resolution, on or off. My 13 Pro, it's on automatically. It always uses HDR, and that's why you get such neat pictures. I've taken pictures with my 13 Pro and with my Canon 80D, and my Canon 80D, the picture just doesn't look as good. Well, if I get in and start editing it and use one of the edit modes that allows you to create an HDR image, it'll look much the same because the 13 Pro is using HDR. And Chuck uses HDR a lot. He can speak to that. And I think John Gray probably uses, I don't know who else does. Bill, do you use HDR? Bill Beard?
Yes.
Yeah. And I didn't know much about HDR until I started going out on some of these photo shoots with the club. I didn't know it existed. Jim Everard's very big on HDR. So, any other final questions?
Got it.
Just Jim, thank you so much. It was great.
Yeah.
Okay, now you got to go play with the camera.
Yeah.